In an age where towering steeples once symbolized sanctuary, many now find themselves standing outside, staring up at walls that no longer feel welcoming. The church, once a beacon of unity, has become, for some, a place where questions are silenced and conformity reigns. What if the structure meant to house divine love has, in its rigidity, closed its doors to the very souls it was meant to nurture? What if the church, in its quest for power and tradition, has unwittingly estranged those seeking the raw, transformative essence of faith? These questions are not heresies, they are the cries of a generation longing for something more. Something real. At the heart of this quiet exodus lies a profound truth. The church, as a building, as an institution, is not the sole vessel of God's presence. For centuries, we've been told that holiness is confined within consecrated walls. But what if that narrative is flawed? Imagine, for a moment, that the most sacred moments of worship happen not in pews, but in living rooms, on mountaintops, or in whispered prayers under a vast, unblemished sky. This is not a rebellion against faith. It is a return to its truest form, stripped of bureaucracy, judgment, and the layers of human error that have obscured the light of divine love. Too many have walked into churches seeking solace, only to encounter exclusion cloaked in piety. The weary, the broken, the questioning, they come in search of grace but are met with sermons heavy with condemnation. For those who felt the sting of rejection in a space that should embody unconditional love, the pain is undeniable. Yet, beneath that pain lies a stirring, a quiet voice reminding them that their worth is not measured by the approval of any institution. It is measured by a love that surpasses all understanding, a love that knows no walls. This is the precipice upon which we stand, a moment of profound reckoning. The choice is ours: remain tethered to outdated practices and dogmas that stifle, or step into the unknown, embracing a faith that breathes life into weary hearts. What comes next is not a critique of the church, but a revelation, a pathway to a deeper, more authentic relationship with the divine. A movement is rising, unshackled from the expectations of tradition, driven by a yearning for connection and truth. If you've ever felt that longing, this is your moment. Stay with me, for what lies ahead may change the way you see faith, love, and worship forever. The landscape of modern faith is a paradox, a collision of hope and disillusionment. On one hand, the human spirit continues to seek connection with the divine, yearning for meaning, redemption, and purpose. On the other, the institutions that claim to guide this journey are often entangled in a web of exclusion, politics, and superficial piety. This is not an attack on the church's origins but an acknowledgement of the weight it carries, the weight of tradition that, over time, has hardened into something unyielding. For many, walking into a church no longer feels like entering a sanctuary. It feels like stepping into a courtroom where one's worthiness is on trial. Pharisaical tendencies, veiled in righteousness, have infiltrated many corners of the religious experience. Rules, interpretations, and hierarchies, some shaped more by human ego than divine will, have become the gatekeepers of salvation. The Pharisees of old were known for their zealous adherence to the law, often at the expense of compassion. Today, the echoes of their rigid doctrine still resonate, creating barriers rather than bridges for those seeking spiritual renewal. And yet, these barriers are not impenetrable. The hunger for authenticity cannot be silenced. It pushes against these walls, yearning for something far greater than rules, a relationship. Amid this tension, there is an awakening, subtle yet undeniable. More and more believers are beginning to question the confines of their inherited faith. They ask, is this truly what Christ envisioned? Did he not gather his followers in fields and on hillsides, away from the pomp and pretense of organized religion? These questions are not born of rebellion but of discernment. Discernment is a sacred gift, an inner compass that guides the soul toward truth and away from the noise of human agendas. In wielding this gift, many discover that their deepest spiritual moments often occur outside the walls of a church. The modern church, in its attempt to remain relevant, sometimes adopts the very values it once sought to challenge. Political ideologies and cultural trends infiltrate its sermons, turning sacred gatherings into platforms for division rather than unity. The focus shifts from the transformative power of love to the enforcement of compliance. Those who do not fit the mold are quietly, or not so quietly, ushered to the margins. This exclusion is not always intentional, but its effects are devastating, leaving countless souls disillusioned, wandering, and wounded. And yet, there is hope. The cracks in this foundation are not signs of ruin but of rebirth. When structures falter, the light has a chance to break through. This is the gift of modernity. It exposes the flaws that have long been hidden and calls us to a higher standard. It challenges us to strip away the layers of artifice and rediscover the raw essence of our faith. What emerges is not the demise of Christianity, but its renewal, a Christianity centered on love, inclusion, and the timeless teachings of Christ. In this space of questioning and rediscovery, the call to authenticity grows louder. It is a call that resonates deeply with those who have felt the sting of exclusion. It whispers to the heart, reminding it that faith is not about fitting into a prescribed mold. It is about living in alignment with a higher purpose. Modernity, for all its flaws, offers a unique gift, the chance to redefine what it means to be a follower of Christ. It is not a departure from tradition but a return to its roots, a faith that embraces the outcast, uplifts the broken, and stands unshaken by the politics of the day. This is the state of faith today, a crossroads where the weary stand poised for transformation. The journey ahead is not easy, but it is essential. For those who have felt lost, unseen, or unwelcome, there is a path waiting to be walked. It begins not in the grandeur of cathedrals or the echo of sermons, but in the quiet places where truth speaks. And it promises to lead to a faith that is as vast as the heavens and as intimate as a whispered prayer. Across the world, a quiet revolution is taking place, a movement of believers stepping beyond the walls of traditional sanctuaries and into spaces where faith breathes freely. These are the worshippers without walls. They gather not out of rebellion, but out of a deep, unshakable desire to experience the fullness of their connection with God. To them, faith is not confined by stained glass or rigid pews, but is alive in every moment, every breath, and every encounter with the divine. It is a return to the simplicity of the early church, where worship was a shared experience, rooted in love and service. This emerging community is bound not by doctrine, but by something far greater, the love of Christ. Here, the barriers of exclusion crumble, replaced by a spirit of radical inclusion. The rejected are embraced, the doubters are welcomed, the wounded are healed. These gatherings may occur in homes, under open skies, or in the digital spaces that connect believers across the globe. What unites them is the unshakable conviction that God's presence is not limited to sanctuaries. It permeates every corner of existence. Central to this movement is the understanding that the essence of worship is not in the grandeur of rituals, but in the authenticity of the heart. In these communities, there is no space for judgment, only for grace. Those who have felt the crushing weight of legalism find a place to breathe, to ask questions, and to explore their faith without fear. This is not a rejection of tradition, but a reclaiming of its core, a faith that places love above all else, as Christ himself taught. Consider the ways this community reflects the heart of the gospel. In the absence of walls, there are no divisions, no us versus them. Instead, there is an unwavering commitment to serving one another, to lifting each other up in times of trial, and to celebrating the beauty of diversity. It is a space where every voice matters, where every story is sacred, and where the bonds of fellowship are unbreakable. This is the church reimagined, not as an institution, but as a living, breathing body of believers. What makes this movement so powerful is its ability to heal wounds inflicted by traditional systems. Those who have been turned away for not conforming to societal or institutional expectations find themselves embraced here. The LGBTQ+ individual, the divorced, the questioning, the broken, all are seen, loved, and valued. In these communities, the teachings of Christ are not used as weapons but as bridges to understanding and compassion. The message is clear: no one is beyond the reach of God's love. The practices of these worshippers without walls are as diverse as the people who comprise them. Some find spiritual renewal in shared meals and intimate conversations, others in collective acts of service to the marginalized. Worship takes on many forms, from simple songs sung under a starlit sky to silent meditations that invite the soul to commune with the Creator. There is no singular way to connect with God, and this freedom opens the door to infinite expressions of faith. This movement also rejects the notion that faith must be accompanied by perfection. It is a place where struggles are acknowledged, not hidden, where doubts are met with understanding, not condemnation. This authenticity, this raw and unfiltered approach to spirituality, is what draws so many. In a world where superficiality often reigns, these communities offer something rare and precious, a space to be fully human, fully vulnerable, and fully loved. As the movement grows, it becomes clear that it is not merely a response to the failings of the institutional church, it is a prophetic call to the church itself. It serves as a reminder that the true church is not a building, a doctrine, or a hierarchy. It is the people, united by their love for God and one another. The worshippers without walls do not seek to destroy the church but to awaken it, to remind it of its original mission, to be a light in the darkness, a refuge for the weary, and a beacon of hope for all. This is not a fleeting trend or a passing phase. It is a spiritual awakening, a reformation of the heart. For those who have longed for a deeper connection with God, this is an invitation. It is a call to step beyond the confines of tradition and into the boundless freedom of authentic faith. Here, you will not find perfection, but you will find love. And in that love, you will discover the essence of what it means to be a follower of Christ. This is the future of faith, unshackled, unbound, and alive. In the quiet stirrings of the soul, there is always a sense of invitation, a whisper urging you towards something greater. For many, this whisper has been drowned out by the noise of tradition, the weight of expectations, or the wounds inflicted by rigid systems. Yet, it remains, persistent and steady, reminding you that the life of faith is not meant to be lived in chains but in freedom. This is the moment to listen, to respond, and to step into the transformative power of an authentic connection with the divine. Every believer carries within them a spark of divine purpose, a unique calling that only they can fulfill. Yet, for too long, that spark has been dimmed by the weight of external demands. Conform to this, believe that, follow these rules without question. This has not only stifled individual growth but has robbed the church of its most precious resource, the unbridled creativity and passion of its people. To step into your calling is not an act of defiance. It is an act of obedience to the God who made you, who knows you, and who calls you to live fully as the person you were created to be. Transformation begins with courage. It takes courage to question the status quo, to acknowledge that the systems you once trusted may no longer serve the purpose they were meant to. It takes courage to face the doubts that have lingered in your heart, to admit that you have felt out of place in spaces that were supposed to feel like home. And yet, this courage is not something you must muster alone. It is a gift, a grace extended to you by the very Spirit that calls you forward. The journey of transformation is not about rejecting the past, but about reimagining the future. It is about holding onto the essence of faith while letting go of the structures that have obscured its beauty. It is about finding God not in the rituals but in the relationships, in the quiet moments of prayer, in the shared laughter of community, and in the acts of love that reflect the heart of Christ. This is not a departure from faith, it is a return to its purest form. For those who have felt trapped, unseen, or unworthy, know this, you are not alone. Across the world, countless others are walking this same path, seeking the same truth. They, too, have felt the sting of rejection and the ache of longing for something more. Together, you form a tapestry of believers who refuse to settle for a faith that is anything less than alive. You are part of a movement that is not defined by walls or doctrines but by the love that binds it together. The road ahead will not be without challenges. Transformation always comes at a cost, and the choice to live authentically may draw criticism or misunderstanding. But the reward is far greater than the cost. To live a life of faith that is truly yours, shaped by your relationship with God and your unique calling, is a gift beyond measure. It is a life of purpose, connection, and unshakable joy. As you walk this path, remember that you are not forsaking the church, you are becoming the church. The body of Christ is not a building, it is the people who live out His love in the world. Whether you find community in a traditional setting or in the unstructured beauty of shared spiritual experiences, you are part of something sacred. You are part of a living, breathing church that transcends walls and traditions, united by the Spirit that moves within and among you. This is your moment to step into the fullness of your faith. Let go of the fear that has held you back and embrace the freedom that awaits. The journey will not always be easy, but it will always be worth it. You were created for this, called to this, destined for this. The divine spark within you is not meant to flicker. It is meant to burn brightly, lighting the way for others and illuminating the world with the love of Christ. Now, as we continue this journey, I invite you to reflect on these truths. If this message resonates with you, share it with others who may need to hear it. Subscribe to this channel, so together we can explore these transformative ideas further. Let this community be a space where your faith is nurtured, your questions are welcomed, and your journey is celebrated. What lies ahead is not just a story, it is your story, unfolding in the light of God's love. You are standing on sacred ground, a moment in your life where everything you've sought, every answer, every connection, every glimpse of the divine, is coming into focus. The calling you feel, the yearning that stirs deep within your spirit, is not a coincidence. It is the undeniable pull of purpose, a reminder that you are not here by chance. This truth is too important to keep to yourself. It is meant to be shared, to ripple outward, touching lives and igniting a fire in hearts that have grown cold. If this resonates with you, do not let this moment pass without action. Right now, you have the power to take a step that will deepen your journey and strengthen your connection to this transformative movement. Subscribe to this channel, not as an act of obligation, but as a declaration, a commitment to explore the fullness of your faith. Activate notifications, so you won't miss the messages that continue to unfold here, designed to nurture your spirit and guide you toward truth. Share this video with someone whose heart is searching, someone who may feel lost in the maze of tradition and longs to rediscover the simplicity and beauty of God's love. In the days ahead, there will be moments when the old patterns, the familiar voices of doubt, will try to call you back. But remember this, you are part of a greater story now. You belong to a fellowship of seekers, a community of believers who refuse to settle for half-truths. Together, you can redefine what it means to be the church in a world that desperately needs healing, love, and authenticity. Every comment you leave here, every thought you share, every word of encouragement to another, these are the seeds of transformation, planted in the soil of a faith that is alive and growing. Look back for a moment at the journey we've shared today. From the acknowledgement of wounds inflicted by rigid systems, to the promise of a new kind of worship, you've been invited into a narrative of hope and restoration. The life of faith is not one of stagnation. It is a journey, ever unfolding, ever deepening. You are not the person you were when this began, and you will not be the same tomorrow. This is the power of truth. It changes everything. As you move forward, carry this knowledge with you. You are part of a movement that is breathing new life into the world. Every step you take toward authenticity, every choice to love over judge, every moment spent in quiet reflection with the Creator, is a step toward building a church without walls. This is your calling, your sacred purpose. Do not underestimate the power you hold to change not only your life but the lives of those around you. You are not just a believer, you are a beacon of hope, a living testimony to the transformative power of God's love. Before you leave, take a moment to explore more of the content available here. Watch the recommended video on your screen now. It is the next chapter in this unfolding story, a deeper dive into the themes we've only begun to uncover. This is your space, your community, and your journey. Together, we are forging a new path, one of inclusion, love, and unshakable faith. Go forward with courage, with hope, and with the knowledge that you are never alone. You are part of something eternal, something divine, and the best is yet to come.